No, if we listened to you, we'd still be rolling drunks for a living.
You broke?
You'll carry that stink of the streets with you the rest of your life.
I like this thing of the streets. It makes me feel good. I like the smell of it. It opens up my lungs.
For many years, James Woods has been known for speaking his mind and not holding back in Hollywood. Now, at 78, he is finally opening up about someone many people never expected him to talk about: Robert De Niro. What really went on between these two famous actors behind the scenes? Was it respect, tension, or something that stayed hidden for years? In this video, we take a closer look at what James Woods is finally willing to say and why he chose to speak now. What he reveals may change the way you see this Hollywood story forever. James Woods was born on April 18, 1947, in the quiet town of Vernal, Utah, but his childhood was shaped by early loss. After his father, an Army intelligence officer, died during routine surgery, Woods was raised in Warwick, Rhode Island. His mother later remarried and ran a small preschool to support the family. Brought up in a strict Catholic home, young James even served briefly as an altar boy. From an early age, his sharp intelligence stood out. He earned admission to NYT, originally dreaming of becoming an eye surgeon. Yet the pull of acting proved stronger than any medical ambition. Woods threw himself into campus theater, directing and performing with growing passion, until he made the bold decision to leave NYT just one semester shy of graduation. Long before fame, he paid his dues in more than 30 stage productions, debuting on Broadway in The Penny Wars in 1969. A quirky footnote to his journey includes landing a role by faking a British accent, and he credits an early helping hand to Tim Affleck, father of Ben and Casey. By the early 1970s, small film roles followed, including an appearance in The Way We Were. His chilling performance in the 1978 miniseries Holocaust marked a turning point, quickly followed by The Onion Field, which announced him as a formidable talent. The 1980s cemented his reputation through intense roles in films like Videodrome, Once Upon a Time in America, and Salvador, the latter earning his first Oscar nomination. By decade's end, Woods was known for embodying haunted, volatile men, performances so raw that even critics like Roger Ebert called them unforgettable. James Woods' career unfolded as a series of bold risks, missed chances, and unforgettable triumphs. In the early 1990s, he nearly crossed paths with Quentin Tarantino on Reservoir Dogs, only to discover later that his own agent had rejected the script without telling him. The betrayal stung deeply, prompting Woods to fire his representation and start anew. Not long after, he delivered a chilling, career-defining performance as Roy Cohn in HBO's Citizen Cohn, earning both Emmy and Golden Globe recognition. Around the same time, he appeared opposite Robert Downey Jr. in Chaplin, quietly reinforcing his range. His hunger to work with Martin Scorsese bordered on desperation. Legend has it, Woods left a message offering any time, any place, any role, any fee. The gamble paid off with Casino in 1995, followed by acclaimed performances in Nixon and Indictment, the McMartin trial. One of his most haunting turns came in Ghosts of Mississippi, where his portrayal of white supremacist Byron Della Beckwith drew praise even as the film struggled commercially. Yet Woods was never confined to darkness. In a surprising shift, he brought manic humor and sharp wit to Disney's Hercules as the voice of Hades, a performance so beloved it echoed the impact of iconic animated villains before him and earned him a Daytime Emmy. The 2000s saw him balancing television, voice work, and guest appearances, with standout roles in Shark, Ray Donovan, and Family Guy. His later work in Too Big to Fail brought fresh acclaim, and his behind-the-scenes contribution to Oppenheimer capped a career marked by intensity, reinvention, and a lingering sense of what might have been, Away from the spotlight, James Woods' personal life has followed a quieter, more fragile rhythm, marked by brief unions and lasting introspection. He has been married twice, though neither relationship endured. In 1980, he wed costume designer Catherine Morrison, but the marriage quietly dissolved just 3 years later. Nearly a decade on, he tried again, marrying Sarah Owen, a much younger equestrian and boutique owner. That chapter closed almost as soon as it began, ending after only a few months. In the early 1990s, Woods was briefly linked to actress Heather Graham, whom he met while filming Diggstown, but that romance, too, passed into memory. Throughout these personal shifts, one constant remained: his faith. Raised Roman Catholic, Woods has said he continues to hold on to his religious beliefs, often describing them as a grounding force. One of the most frightening moments of his life came not from heartbreak, but from chance. In December 2015, while driving alone through Colorado's Glenwood Canyon during a brutal ice storm, Woods was caught in a chain reaction crash. Trying to avoid wreckage ahead, his vehicle slammed into a wall and was thrown back toward a guardrail overlooking a deep river below. Miraculously, he survived with only a mild concussion. Looking back, the moment felt like a stark reminder of how quickly life can turn, an unsettling echo of the many risks, losses, and narrow escapes that have shaped his journey. When Casino arrived in 1995, it placed two formidable forces on the same cinematic battlefield: James Woods and Robert De Niro, both operating at peak intensity under Martin Scorsese's watchful eye. On screen, their presence crackled. Off-screen, the contrast between them was just as striking. Though they shared fame and fierce commitment, their philosophies, of acting and of life, could not have been further apart. De Niro is the embodiment of classic method discipline, disappearing into his characters through physical transformation and emotional excavation. He lives inside a role, reshaping his body and habits until the line between actor and character nearly dissolves. It's a tradition rooted in Stanislavski's ideals, and one that has defined his career. Woods, by contrast, approaches acting like a chess match. His performances are built on precision, intellect, and control, favoring sharp timing and raw presence over emotional surrender. One dives inward, the other stays firmly in command. Both styles captivate, but they rarely coexist comfortably. That creative tension extended beyond performance. Politically, the divide was just as wide. De Niro became an outspoken liberal voice, publicly championing democratic causes and condemning conservative leadership. Woods, once a Democrat himself, shifted sharply to the right after the late 1990s, eventually emerging as one of Hollywood's most unapologetic conservative figures. Insiders recall polite acknowledgments between the two men, followed by thick silences, moments where courtesy barely masked ideological frost. Even Scorsese, a master at navigating strong personalities, couldn't fully soften the atmosphere. It wasn't rivalry so much as mutual resistance, a collision of values layered atop clashing creative instincts. As the years passed, the contrast only deepened. Woods gradually stepped away from acting's center stage and re-emerged as a relentless political commentator, using social media as his new arena. That transformation reached a breaking point in 2018, when his longtime agency severed ties, a move Woods publicly framed as ideological exile. Meanwhile, De Niro moved further into activism, delivering blistering anti-Trump remarks that drew thunderous applause at public events, and cemented his status as a cultural counterweight to figures like Woods. Despite the noise, neither man has ever directly aimed at the other in public. They exist now as parallel legends, once briefly aligned in the same cinematic moment, now traveling separate paths. Their shared silence feels telling, as if both understand that what once stood between them was never just about acting. It was about identity, belief, and two irreconcilable ways of standing in the world. Even years later, the strain between James Woods and Robert De Niro lingered whenever their paths crossed, whether at industry gatherings or in conversations that drifted back to their shared screen history. Woods embraced his transformation into a political firebrand, undeterred even when it cost him professional representation. De Niro, by contrast, channeled his convictions through speeches, award show moments, and high-profile appearances. One wielded sharp words online, the other commanded applause from a live audience. Together, their contrasting approaches exposed a widening fault line within Hollywood itself. Though neither man openly went after the other, their public identities spoke volumes. Two celebrated actors, once united by cinema, now stood on opposite sides with no attempt at reconciliation. Their divide was never just personal. It came to symbolize a larger cultural and generational shift, one reshaping how art, politics, and expression collide in the modern era. As their careers matured, their beliefs became inseparable from their legacies, turning them into emblems of a much broader debate. No olive branch was ever extended, perhaps because none was expected. Some rifts aren't meant to heal. They exist as reflections of the world around them. And while the camera once framed them together, time and conviction ultimately revealed just how far apart they had become. One of the most turbulent chapters in James Woods' life unfolded far from the screen, in a very public clash that blurred the line between personal conflict and legal warfare. In the late 1980s, shortly after he and actress Sean Young appeared together in The Boost, their professional association unraveled into a bitter dispute. In 1988, Woods shocked Hollywood by filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Young, accusing her of harassing and intimidating him after filming Wrapped. He claimed her behavior became unsettling, and that repeated contact left him feeling unsafe. Young firmly rejected that narrative. She countered that it was Woods who had pursued her romantically during production, and that his anger stemmed from rejection rather than fear. To her, the lawsuit was not self-protection, but retaliation. As the press seized on the conflicting stories, the case became tabloid fuel, with neither side backing down publicly. In the end, the matter never reached a courtroom. It was quietly settled in 1989, behind closed doors. Woods ultimately paid Young a significant sum to cover her expenses, a resolution that many interpreted as a rare moment of vindication for her, though the truth of what transpired remained locked away in private agreements and unspoken memories. Years later, another legal battle would strike Woods on a far more personal level. In 2006, tragedy struck when his younger brother, Michael Jeffrey Woods, died suddenly at just 49, after suffering cardiac arrest at a hospital in Rhode Island. The loss devastated the family, but grief soon gave way to anger. Woods became convinced that critical mistakes had been made and that his brother's death might have been preventable. Believing the hospital had failed in its duty of care, he filed a malpractice lawsuit, driven by a need for answers as much as accountability. That case, too, ended without a public trial, resolved privately several years later with undisclosed terms. Whether justice was truly served remains unknown, but for Woods, the fight seemed rooted in something deeper than money. A desperate attempt to make sense of sudden loss and to give voice to a pain that never fully fades. Together, these episodes reveal a man repeatedly drawn into the legal arena not by ambition, but by conflict, heartbreak, and the lingering hope that truth, once faced, might offer some measure of peace. In the mid-2000s, James Woods found himself pulled into a series of surreal legal storms, all sparked not by movie roles, but by words typed into a glowing screen. One of the strangest began in 2015 with a single anonymous tweet that accused him of cocaine addiction. To Woods, the claim felt reckless and deeply damaging, a stain on a reputation he had spent decades building. Refusing to shrug it off, he launched a defamation lawsuit seeking massive damages, not only against the unknown author, but also against others who had amplified the remark. What followed was a maze of legal setbacks. Courts were initially unwilling to unmask the anonymous user, citing protections around online identity. Woods persisted, eventually narrowing the case to the original account alone. Then, in a twist no one could have predicted, it emerged that the person behind the account had died. With no defendant to face, the case quietly dissolved. Woods never received a formal victory, but he did receive a written apology acknowledging the statement was wrong, an eerie conclusion to a battle that began with outrage and ended in silence. Just a few years later, social media once again placed Woods at the center of controversy. In 2017, he shared an image from a political rally and mistakenly identified the woman in the photo as a well-known activist, accusing her of extremist behavior. The error ignited another lawsuit, with the woman claiming reputational harm and demanding substantial damages. Woods maintained it was an honest mistake, not an act of malice. The courts ultimately agreed, ruling that his post could be interpreted without defamatory intent. Appeals followed, but the original decision stood, closing yet another chapter in his complicated relationship with online speech. Beyond the courtroom, Woods's outspoken political identity has made him both admired and isolated. Once a lifelong Democrat, he publicly broke from the party in the late 1990s, disillusioned by events surrounding President Clinton's impeachment. Over time, he gravitated toward conservative figures, lending vocal support to Republican candidates and later becoming a fierce defender of Donald Trump. That stance placed him at odds with much of Hollywood. In 2018, his talent agency dropped him, a move Woods attributed to ideological differences rather than professional ones. He has often suggested that many in the industry privately share his views, but fear professional consequences. His online presence has also drawn him into public disputes, including heated exchanges with fellow actors and activists. Some allegations he has firmly denied, while others have fueled lasting criticism. Yet even amid the noise, there have been moments that revealed a different side. During the devastating California wildfires, Woods used his social media following to help reconnect displaced families with missing loved ones and pets, earning unexpected praise from supporters and critics alike. In recent years, his commentary on global conflicts has once again stirred backlash, with harsh rhetoric drawing condemnation from many quarters. Looking back, Woods's digital footprint feels like a mirror of his life itself, brilliant, combative, sometimes reckless, and deeply human. From a single tweet to sweeping political declarations, his story reflects the strange modern truth that words, once released, can haunt a legacy just as powerfully as any role ever could.